So I would like to welcome to the stage Marco Crotta. Thank you very much, Marco, for being here. He's a blockchain expert and consultant and co-founder at Blockchain Caffè. Exactly. Let's show some love, some energy at the end of the day. Thank you very much. I have to say, I'm
The picture is from before the pandemic, of course.
Okay.
¿Las hacemos en inglés, verdad?
Sí, let's do it in English. We can go down to Spanish.
Lo que podría hacer para hablar castellano es mirar 5 temporadas de La Casa de Papel. Como un atracador de bancos.
You don't have the mic. Pero repite eso porque that was very funny.
Is that? Oh no, okay, it works.
It's working.
Okay.
What can you do to learn Spanish?
Sorry?
What can you do to learn Spanish?
I said all I could do is watch 5 seasons of Money Heist and that's it. But I can understand it in the end, but the result is that I speak like a bank robber, so probably wouldn't do.
Yeah, great. I mean, I think actually Money Heist has been one of the most successful or international Spanish things coming from here.
Definitely.
I was amazed about how many people looked at Money Heist in random countries.
Yeah, and it's also one of the most loved by people in the crypto world because there is this scene at the end of the last episode of season 2 where the bank robber explains the policewoman that said, "This is just paper, this is not money," right? And this sentence is glamorous. I mean, it's great. I've seen it all over because it gives you the idea what you think that money is and what it actually is or might be. It sparks a lot of thoughts.
Definitely. It's super inspiring, actually, some of these snippets that get into culture. It's like the hodl thing, right? That was like a mistake from someone who wanted to say hold, and then it said hodl, and it just stayed forever and ever on the blockchain almost.
Right.
So I think it's a super nice start of the end to ask you, how did you start? How Marco Crotta gets into blockchain?
I think I got from the wrong side of it because, I first had a shot of the white paper, and when we say the white paper, we all know we're talking about Bitcoin because that's the white paper. Because I was doing some research about peer-to-peer connection and peer-to-peer networks, and these Bitcoin things pop up, and I look at it and said, nah, this is not going to work, it's not interesting. I mean, I just wanted the peer-to-peer part. There is other protocol to study. And that's one of the moments of my life that I regret the most, probably, because 2010 was an incredible moment to jump into the space, but I didn't see it coming. And I saw the blockchain a couple of times after that, and I thought it could not work because it was just sounding too good to be true. Mm-hmm. It was also explained in a way that didn't make my sense because it was like software with superpowers or something like this. So where I come from the academic world, you need to prove everything, and there was no such proof. So not in the crowd, not around the people. And when I started to study blockchain and especially Bitcoin, it was to prove that it could not work. Because I was sure that there had to be a flaw, especially because people were thinking about information is not duplicable anymore. There is this digital scarcity that was explained in some weird way, said, no, it can't work this way. So I started studying it. It took me about 4 or 5 months to understand what was going on, trying it a bit. And in the end, I figured out that it is possible, but it was explained and thought in a way that it was not actually understandable. So I said, okay, I have a CS degree. I was a developer. I'm sort of a developer right now.
Yeah, you never stopped being a developer.
Yeah, my fields were networking and cryptography, So I was the one who was supposed to understand everything from the start, but it was very hard for me. So I figured out that I said, okay, first I was thrilled when I understood that what it actually was. And my first thought is, okay, this technology is going to change the world. I'm 100% sure of that. But it's very hard to grasp, it's very hard to understand, especially for the common people, it's very hard to have a feeling of what it is.
Correct.
And so I just jump on and I opened my YouTube channel with the idea of explaining it in simple terms to people, even the technical details, but not that much, in order to have everybody able to understand it and to understand that this technology is already, now we can say it's the present, but at the time it was the future. And I really wanted to give everyone the chance to jump on board as soon as possible. Because I mean, I was so committed to that, and I wanted to have with me as many people as possible.
When was that?
It was 2017. When I started the channel 2017, I started studying it in 2016, the year before. And so I opened the channel. I started explaining what Bitcoin is, how blockchain works, especially in doing a lot of myth busting, so trying to correct the word of mouth. People say that, it's not exactly this. It actually worked the other way around.
That's
because
amazing.
if you have at least a good foundation of the technical understanding of how the blockchain works, it's easier to get a grasp on it and say, okay, now I get it.
I agree.
It's not that mysterious thing, and I can give it a try. I can maybe make a project with my company, I can start a startup, I can invest in some crypto, I can dig deeper into it and see what's in there for me, maybe, or for my children, or for my community. And so I started with this. I started as a misbeliever, and then what usually happens, like when you get married, before you get married, you don't want to talk about marriage anyway, but once you get married, you go to your friend and say, hey, how about your girlfriend? When are you gonna, that same thing, exactly the same thing.
You're converted. That's amazing, actually. It's very nice that someone like you from cryptography, CS, is like, no, this cannot work. And by studying it and putting skepticism in it, then something sparks. What was the thing that sparked for you? What was the moment that you said, aha? Or maybe it was not a moment.
I don't know if it was exactly a moment, but because I had to start learning it bit by bit, understanding every single step. It was like a puzzle, because the thing with blockchain itself is very complicated. It's very hard to understand. And the event today shows it, because you have people, it was amazing seeing people here on the stage, because they were talking about economics, brands, marketing, politics, all those different fields that apparently have nothing to do with technology, but that, they get together. So the blockchain itself, starting from Bitcoin, going to smart contracts, and then going to NFTs and everything that comes after that, actually involves us as a species, I think, because it has an impact on everything that we do. We heard a lot of people talking about the laws. What does the law think about the blockchain or about the DAO? This law of this country is different from the other one. So it's a challenging technology. So it's hard to understand for us, and it brings us to you put yourself some questions on things that you thought they were granted, like, for example, what is money? Like we started, what actually is money? We use money every day, and when I have to explain it to my daughters, well, actually it's not that linear, not that clear. So they look at me like, and they go, and I realize that it's me. The problem is me. I don't have the instrument to tell them what money actually is and why it has a value. Blockchain brings you to question what money is, what value is, what politics is, what everything. All the things that you take for granted, you start looking at them in a different angle. And that's the best part of it, because once you, like I did in the beginning, when you question something, the question that you put on, for example, Bitcoin, why Bitcoin has value, the question sticks, and then you put the same question, for example, why the euro has value, why this and that has value. So it brings out the questions, and then questions are sticky. They remain with you, and you start applying the same questions to different things, and it definitely changes the perspective. After that, you commit yourself to the question and trying to understand exactly what's behind all the things that you use every day, what they are for real, what are they for me. Is a DAO a new version of politics? Maybe. Is crypto a new version of the next version of money? Maybe. How many different things are there that we can change using this technology, leveraging this technology? How many changes we can bring to the world? This is the part that excites me the most.
Would you say then that one of the most, or one of the brilliant things behind the roots of the blockchain technology is that maybe it makes you ask some question, or ask the right questions, or doubt some status quo, so that you actually say, oh, okay, it was not that hard. And, you know, considering what you said about that technology, that you had to know what's there to actually understand it, I remember reading in an article that the founders of this marketplace, I think it was Foundation, I'm not 100% sure, maybe it was Super Rare, but I think it was Foundation. They said that at the beginning they wanted to do a marketplace where blockchain was invisible, like invisible. People could buy, sell, no thinking about wallets, no thinking about addresses or nothing. And they did quite a lot of repetitions, and at the end, their conclusion was that blockchain is a technology that wants to be shown. It doesn't want to hide. Because if you start compromising, then you don't have centralization. Then it's centralized. If you hold the keys of the people, then it's not decentralized. So I wonder if it wants to be shown, it wants to be understood, it wants to say, no, life is not so simple.
Exactly. But I guess it's not this is the ultimate goal. This is the final point you want to get to. But we are still in a period where we are in a Web 2 world for most of the part, and we are making this transition slowly to the Web 3. And for example, if your project needs to onboard people from any part of society, not people that necessarily understand what a blockchain is, what a wallet is, then you have to make things very simple. And sometimes you make the choice of trying to hide the complexity. But if you try to do that, then you change the nature of the blockchain, and so the project is not that good under a conceptual level, but it onboards people. So there is I think that the next 5 to 10 years will be fought on this battlefield, like how do I get people to understand blockchain, not the details, not the consensus algorithm, but just I have a wallet, this is the way to backup it, this is how I use it. I don't care about the technicalities behind it, but it's an instrument that I am comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, we all use the web every single day, but nobody, I guess, understands what a DNS is. Nobody understands an IP address, and those are the simple parts. You don't have to go to border gateway protocol or routing protocols, right? But it's part of the internet. That you know how to use the internet, even if you don't understand every single deep cog in this mechanism. We need to get there with the blockchain too. Like, you have your wallet, you understand how to use your wallet, you understand the responsibility that comes with using your wallet, and you use it in all the applications. So it becomes a tool, it becomes natural. I think we will go to get there because I have this, my mother, when my daughters were born, she didn't know how to use a cell phone. She still used those flip phones with numbers, the keypads you have to touch on, and she didn't want to use a smartphone at all. But in the moment that my daughters were born, she had this idea that a smartphone can take pictures, and I can share pictures with my friends of the tea club or whatever. And from 1 week to the next, I received this phone call from my mother and say, hey, you need to get me a smartphone because I need a plan with more gigabytes because I have to send pictures. And I said, Mom, you don't know what gigabytes are. Yeah, Mom, but my friends explain me everything. So if you have the right motivation behind it, even people 80 years old like my mother, they jump in and they have these propulsion that helps them skipping the first steps, which it's hard. Yes, it's hard, but you have a good reason to do that. You have your motivation, you have something that you like that will bring you there. And we need to do this, I guess, in the next 5 to 10 years, making it so common making it simple, right? This is what we do. We need to do it with UX designer, with changing the way that we think about the interfaces, or making better dApps that get easier for the people to use. That's one part, and the important part of the onboarding of new people, because we are aiming for the mass adoption at the end of the day, because otherwise you don't change the world. So you have to bring them inside as much people as you can. So make it easy, leverage all the things that we already know from Web 2, from web designing, from UX, and then make it simple for them to use.
Yeah, I agree. I love actually that idea, and it's true. I think it's true that with the right motivation, people just do the work. I think complexity helps.
It's fun. It's like in the DAO.
Exactly.
It becomes fun. It becomes something that you like, something that you believe in. So it becomes part of your ideals or your motivation. So it's not work. It's not boring.
So then I think that if people would see or would understand maybe some brilliant ideas that are behind the blockchain technology, that would become like a motivation for them. So, two simple terms for people, like imagine you're Morpheus in Matrix and you're telling the whole population of free people what are the brilliant ideas of blockchain. What would you say?
Which pill to choose? Which pill to choose? Okay.
Orange one.
Well, the thing is, the brilliant idea behind the blockchain is that it's like many people have been fantasizing who's this Satoshi Nakamoto guy is, right? And somebody said, oh, it's an artificial intelligence coming from the future because it was impossible to conceive something of this kind. I like to think there's many, there's one case of this famous mathematician that didn't know that the problem was unsolvable, and he tried to solve it, and in the end he made it because he was looking at things from a completely different perspective. So what I think one of the greatest ideas that Satoshi Nakamoto had when thinking about Bitcoin was changing the perspective, because there were a lot of previous attempts of making something like Bitcoin, but they all failed because they were looking at the problem from the wrong perspective. They were trying to make the digital dollar, the digital nuggets of gold. And the first thing that I think is genius is that Bitcoin doesn't have this approach. I mean, when we speak, we think of Bitcoin like a unique account, like a coin. Actually, it's not that. If you look at the code level, Bitcoin is the transaction, the passing of ownership from one people to the next. So you don't look at the object, but you look at who was owning it before and who is owning it now. So it's not the object, is the change of possession of the object. So just by changing this fundamental element, you have a total different type of approach toward it. So you change the nature of the thing that you are modeling, and the model becomes different. And one of the things that's come different is that, for example, one of the reasons why the previous projects were all failing is that everybody can do cut and paste. So you have a digital dollar, you make copies of the digital dollar, and you inflate the system, and the system goes down. But if the elementary element that you're looking at is the Bitcoin previously built what was mine, and now it's yours, and we make this information public, and everybody can copy it all over, it doesn't make the system weaker. It makes the system stronger, because more people knows that I don't have that Bitcoin anymore, and you are the legit possessor now. So by just changing the nature of the object, you also change the way that you protect it and the way that you treat this information. So what before was a point of weakness now becomes a point of strength. Replicating the information becomes the strength of the blockchain. So replicating this information across all the nodes makes so that information gets public, everybody knows it, everybody can check it, and you basically stop a lot of problems that you had before when you're trying to make something like this. So the idea is, the first brilliant idea is try to look at things upside down, and try to think upside down, pretend that you don't know money at all, and pretend to reinvent it in a completely different way, in a completely different environment that has different rules. And then you come up with something that is completely different from what you had before, but it works, and it works even better.
That's an amazing way of saying it. That's an amazing way of seeing it. I love that. That is a brilliant idea. It's still, I just imagine my grandmother listening to the brilliant idea. Maybe she wouldn't have taken it in. But I think that, as you say, it's about understanding the concept and the possibility of that concept that really blows your mind more than actually thinking about this is like a new dollar. But I don't understand the dollar. Why should I get this? And how can I change it to euro? No, that's like the main approach of someone who's completely new to cryptocurrency. And I think it's beyond that. And for me, even that's a moment of aha, or it's some months of understanding, that change that has done inside of you for thinking about that, that's the gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's very dangerous because it's some sort of a toxic approach, because when you start changing your mind by having new ideas and changing your mind, it sticks on your head, and you change the way you look at the world, you change the way that you look at possibilities. So it's a sort of a virus, because it changes the way you approach the world. You have a new tool, you have new concepts in your mind, you have a new mindset, and this is also part of the problem, let's say. It's the great opportunity, but it's part of the problem, because blockchain, we used to say that blockchain is disruptive, right? So it completely breaks from the past. So all the ideas that you had in your mind, the values, the mental instrument that you had to define reality do not apply here. So if you are used to see things in a certain way in the pre-blockchain world, they don't work here. That's, for example, one of the reasons that I think many lawyers or legislation have trouble coping with, because you have the lawyers of that country or the law of that country that is trying to regulate something that is global, and it's out of their reach from a certain point of view. Like you can't use the old tool on the new device. It's like you have a computer, and you approach the computer with a hammer and a screwdriver, and you try, and you're possibly gonna break it. Like, okay, no, that's not the way you.
Yes, totally. Actually, you're inspiring me with something I have always thought about blockchain, which is blockchain in a way alchemizes greed, because, for example, miners who protect the blockchain, they work for their own benefit because they're looking for those bitcoins that get mined. But at the same time, by working for their own benefit and for their own profit and greed, they are actually securing the whole.
Exactly, and that's another brilliant idea. I mean, you can be greedy, you can be a miner. I usually describe the miners like if you have to pick a character from the cinema, it's Han Solo, right? He's greedy, he just works for himself, he looks just to the money, but at the end of the day, he's a hero. So the idea is that, yeah, the other interesting part of the blockchain and the consensus mechanism is that me and you, we are in the same economic space. So in a sort of way, we are competitors because it's a market, so we compete for resources. But at the same time, we cannot access those resources unless we work together. So it's a constant balance in between being competitors and being pals, being friends, because we all have to work together to make things work. And that's the only way that you can get value in your pockets. Yeah. You don't, and also it's engineered in a way that is far easier to be part of this system and profit from this system than trying to attack it from the outside. Yeah. Yeah. So it's amazing. It works on, it's sort of work perfectly on different levels, and that's why it's hard to understand in the beginning, because it's like you have those pieces of the puzzle, you put them there, and all of a sudden they give you the whole picture, and you go, oh, now I see it. Exactly. Now I get it. Exactly. First you have to understand SHA-265 and what a digital signature is, peer-to-peer networks, block minings, Merkle trees, and all that other stuff, and then it composes itself. It's like a puzzle or a Lego game that builds itself up and says, oh, that's amazing, and it works.
I love it. I mean, yeah, I just cannot stop saying this neither, because I wanted to go into the dark side, so if there's like something that's not so good about it, but first I need to also say that in what we were saying, at the same time, hacking or making a 51% attack on the blockchain of Bitcoin, which would mean having more than 50% of the computational power to mine the blocks in a way that's deceiving, it's more expensive than actually just buying Bitcoin. Exactly. And that's actually the good part. It makes it for you more expensive to be a bad actor than to be a good one. And that's such a self-regulator.
And also because it's transparent, if you want to do a 51% attack now on Bitcoin, basically you can't. I mean, it's already so big that it becomes a theory. Okay, in theory it's possible, but if you have to make it for real, you have to buy gazillion of dollars of hardware, and this wouldn't go unnoticed. Also because there are not enough ASICs in the market now to buy them in order to make a full 51% attack. You have to buy a lot of power, and it's very hard to get all that power from the network, because we're talking about, I think it's about 0.5% of the global energy production in the world, and this wouldn't go unnoticed. And when you start trying to do that, you see a spike in the hash rate and what's happening. And the blockchain is so transparent that in the end, if you even try to do that, you're not sure to succeed, because 51% is probabilistic, but for sure you spend a lot of money. Everybody is looking at you because they know what you're doing, because it's so big that you can't hide it. So in the end, why bother? I mean, if I have all this money, why not be part of the game and profit from it, right?
I mean, okay, I'm going to take the blue pill now. I'm going to take the orange pill out. Let's take the blue pill, and let's actually discuss is it all sunshines and rainbows? Like, is there any dark side or any threat or any dark areas that you see in all this?
Blockchain is a technology, so like knives, guns, cars, furniture, it's not bad or good per se. It depends the use you make out of it. And for sure, the thing that it relates to money brought in the space a lot of scam, a lot of con artists, Ponzi schemes, and this is pollution of our beautiful environment. There are those aspects, we cannot deny that, and there are a lot. Most of the ICOs in the 2017 were pointless, like there was even this Ponzi token that was stating that it was a Ponzi scheme, and still people bought the token. There was this guy that was making his own token because he wanted to buy a TV set, and he advertised it publicly, and he made enough money to buy 15 or more those TV sets because there was this hype. Everybody was looking for, you know, there's this way of saying when somebody points at the moon, don't look at the finger, or something like this, like don't miss the big picture. And everybody was looking at the small picture, which is, I want to be rich now, I want to buy a Lambo. And that's not the point. At the beginning is the shiny part that attracts everybody.
The marketing, no?
Yeah, the marketing, exactly. And when a project has some marketing behind it, think twice. But the idea is, all people was looking at the space because they wanted to get rich. We have a joke, an inside joke that says that people wants to be rich in fiat. I mean, he wants to be rich in dollars. So he didn't get what actually Bitcoin and what crypto is. When you change the perspective, you don't care about getting rich in dollars. You want to get rich in technology, you want to get rich in Bitcoin, you want to get rich in freedom, because most of the project, especially Bitcoin, brings along the tail concept of freedom, of independence. So it's the first stage is I want to be rich, right? So many projects came into the space promising everybody to get rich for this and that reason, huge marketing, which made no sense. I've been working with most people that have been scammed in order to try to get back the money, and it's unbelievable how stupid some scams are, because, for example, some of those tokens had a fake address in the white paper, or people working in the CTO of one of those scams previously was working as an ice cream seller. So, I mean, there was those strange things that didn't add up. So you just needed to do some sort of open source intelligence, very, very light, to understand that the project was fake. So the point is, when there is a lot of money involved, of course, there's going to be something bad happening because it's human nature. But, I mean, it already happens with any other type of money, so it's sort of natural.
So if you put money out of the equation, what do you think are some good uses or some applications for blockchain to make the world better?
I think that the main value of the blockchain, let's take out of the table Bitcoin for a moment, because that will require hours of speech for himself. But if you just look at the technology, I'm a technology guy, so I look at that part. The great value of blockchain is transparency. It completely shifts the point from going to trust an intermediary to have something that is, I can look at the things by myself, I can make an independent evaluation, an assessment by myself of what's happening, because the blockchain is transparent. I can sit in my sofa at home, open an Explorer and look at every transaction from every wallet around the world. So this is the first step. It makes everything transparent. It makes so that everybody with the right tools can look at the things and check for himself. So you don't have to believe in anyone, you don't have to trust anyone. It takes trust out of the equation completely. So whenever you have a project that focuses on making things transparent, that's the right use for the blockchain. If you want to take out of the equation an intermediary, that's the right point for the blockchain. Because, for example, take NFT. Before you have to go through, if you are an artist, you have to go through the art market, which is a universe of his own, with his own rules, with his own home people. Some rules are spoken, some are not. If you are an independent artist, you want to make your NFTs, you make them on an OpenSea, and if you're good, they might get value. They might get value. Nobody makes you a promise that you're going to get rich again. But you don't need to go through all these things that like we did before. You're a musician, as the girl before me said, you can be an independent musician and try to produce your own music, maybe even get donations from the people that like you, and put out your tracks or your record and be independent. So this is the part of the freedom that we are talking about. And in doing so, you give everybody also the opportunity to check how much money did I get, I don't know, did I do something wrong or off the records? No, with blockchain you can't, not in the blockchain. So we can change the world by taking not all of the trust, because we are humans, so trust is fundamental, but trust in business. And when you have trust in business, usually, trust me, I come from Italy, so I know, usually trust involves somebody getting screwed, because if you trust somebody, if you don't trust somebody, they can make you some trick. But it's the moment where you trust somebody that they get in and they go behind your back or something like that. So if you take money, if you take trust out of the equation when it comes to business, you replace trust with transparency, it changes a lot. It's very hard for things to turn bad or to, I mean, a project to... There's accountability, because this is my address. When I talk to somebody and they have to pay me for something, or I want to raise capital for something, this is my address. You see what got in and what got out and where it went. It's easy to do follow the money when you are on the blockchain.
Whoa, that's a super nice approach. I am really enjoying this talk, Marco. Maybe for starting to wrap it up, you could tell us about what are you working at now?
I'm working as an independent consultant, mostly, because my mission is go to companies and talk to them about blockchain and to see if it's an opportunity, how they can implement a solution based on the blockchain in their space. It might be mechanics, avionics, textile, food. There are most cases that can be applied to different type of industries, and so I have to first educate them, to teach them about blockchain, maybe make up a POC just to get them started and make a small test and see if they like it, and see if that changes the business model or the value proposition of the company, and go on. I also have my own startup, which is working on the blockchain, and it does something completely, I think, unprecedented, because it's very strange. I put dogs and cats on the blockchain. and that's not a joke, because I literally do that because my wife is a famous animal trainer in Italy. He takes care of the well-being of dogs, training dogs, and mostly training dog owners. But the idea is that there is a huge problem in the pet industry. And the problem is that pets are mostly invisible. This opens the space to a lot of scams in the pet world. Like, for example, you think you bought a purebred dog, which is not a purebred dog, or vice versa, or they provide you with fake documents pretending that that was a purebred dog, but it is not. There are puppy farms where dogs are forced to reproduce over and over and over and over just to make more puppies to sell to the market. And university don't have, or pharma industry don't have enough data on pets to develop new cures, new drugs. Insurance company don't know how to make a policy, especially for your dog, because your dog and her dog and his dog, for them, are exactly as equally unknown. So what we do is we created an international pet registry on the blockchain, where every pet is basically a wallet, and you can attach all the documents of the pet to the pet itself. And whether there are pictures or his passport or his sanitary information, and it makes very easy to track pets, track pet owners, track diseases on pet, or for example, for shelters, if they want to give a pet in adoption, it's very easy to track that this pet was first here, then I gave it to this new owner. Is the new owner treating the pet right? Meaning, do I see the new documents for the cures in the blockchain or not? So it brings transparency into a world that was completely dark, because basically, not because it was a bad industry, but because it was a dark industry, meaning that there was no light in it, there was no data. So we're trying to bring data on that particular field, which is the pet industry, in order to help every stakeholder. So we talk to owners, vets, dog food producers, shelters, pharma company, insurance company, because we basically collect the data in a transparent world so that everybody can benefit from it. It sounds more like a no profit or a charity.
Yeah.
It's sort of it, but it also has a business part, meaning that data has a value, so we're trying to collect it in a very profound, a very precise way, so that it's actually marketable and usable, and so that we can actually make something good out of it.
Sounds amazing, actually. I think it's, yeah, everything that these people say is amazing, right? I'm just like, please just come, who's next?
I mean, this was this thing with cats and internet going on since the 90s, so why not dogs on the blockchain?
No, totally. and I think it's such a good thing to do, because also we have visibility, we have awareness, we just, as you said, everything that brings integrity, needs integrity, transparency, and lack of intermediaries.
And also, this is another good thing about the blockchain. It allows you to invent a new solution to problems that before you didn't even know they were there. But it gives you a solution and ways to change the world. So Bitcoin says they want to fix the money, to fix the world. I take a very small step and say, I just want to fix dogs so that everybody is happy, dogs in the first place. But they're still part of our life. So
I celebrate it. Really like that. And I think that's a really nice sentence to finish, because it's one of my favorite sentences. Like every sufficiently advanced technology should be indistinguishable from magic.
Exactly. Okay.
So
we're putting some magic in it, but we know how to do it.
Exactly. So anyone has any question for Marco with his so much appreciated and interesting approach to blockchain?
And by the way, if you have a dog or a cat...
Exactly. Or anyone has a pet.
You know what to do.
Exactly. Has to be Italian pet, or can be...
At the moment, the interface of the web app is just in Italian, so we are trying to spread it in Italy. We won a startup competition for just last week, so we will go into this city and we're trying to collect the data of all the dogs with the municipality, so we did the major helping us, and all the vets in the same city, so that they use that as a common database, let's say, for all the pet information. So it's like making a digital identity for pet. It's easier with pet than with people for all the GDPR stuff and other stuff, but we start from there, we see where we can go.
Thank you very much, Marco.